Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023 Escondido Planning Commission meeting to order. Would you all rise for the flag salute, please? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. And can we have the roll call, please?
Chair Paul.
Present.
Vice Chair Barbe.
Present.
Commissioner Barber.
Present.
Commissioner Marcaro.
Present.
Commissioner Weiler.
Here.
Commissioner Fitzgerald.
Present.
And Commissioner Spear.
Can you just apply it?
Okay.
Changing it up.
So the first item tonight is a workshop. The City Clerk's Office will provide training to the Planning Commission on the new City Council Chambers voting system.
I'm Serena Garcia. I'm the Assistant City Clerk. It's pretty easy for you guys. Your training is literally just clicking a button and voting, but we're going to run through a couple tests just so that Alex can kind of click it. When he clicks an item and when you guys are ready to vote, he's going to say the voting's been open. And that's when you're going to click that little refresh button on your screen. So what's going to happen, we're just going to do a test one for right now, but say we'll do, you can just do call to order if you wanted to. Yeah.
It's nice and easy.
Yeah, so we're pretending that the call to order would be something that you would be voting on. So when Alex clicks it, it'll briefly come up on the screen, but he'll say, oh, the voting's open. And then you guys will be able to click refresh. And it should show up for that. Are we supposed to click that? You can. You can go ahead. We're just kind of doing a mock one, so none of these votes are going to be actually like you're voting on roll call. But what's going to happen is you can vote yay, abstain, nay. And once you hit yay or nay, you can submit your vote. And that's automatically going to show to Alex, so you don't need to say, oh, I voted this way or that way. It'll show. If for some reason you're like, oh, God, I hit the wrong button, before he publishes it, you can refresh it. So if you vote yay or nay, and you're like, oh, I hit something, yes, it'll take you back to the vote screen, and you can change your vote before you refresh it. Yeah. Alex, though, once he sees all of the voting come up, that's when he's going to say the vote's been closed and he can publish it. And it'll show up on your screen. And this screen's going to show to the public. So the main reason that we're doing this voting system is to make it easy and accurate for people's votes to be recorded, but also so when the public comes in, they can actually see and follow the agenda and the votes, and it's just more accurate. But so for you guys, really, it's like the voting's open, you're going to vote instead of just saying yay or nay or raising your hand, you're going to click the button. And that's pretty much all you guys have to do in terms of the voting system. Alex is the main person that kind of did the training. So we can try it again too if you want to switch to another one. So we'll just pretend we're taking like, you can click call to order or flag salute or whatever. And he'll say again, like the voting's been open.
Can I just suggest that we do it as if we're doing it?
Oh,
So
yeah,
Alex
sure.
says the voting, so people know when to do what. Just a suggestion since we have the time.
So if you want to roll through, you can change whatever because it's not going to be recorded otherwise. We can fix it.
So just as a most of practice in general, we're going to be voting on the flag salute item. So that's how it will display onto your screens. So as of right now, the voting has been opened.
You just want to click refresh after he says, there you go. And you should see the top of the screen will say the item. And as soon as you submit, it's going to show up for you. And if you're like, oh, cool, great. And then you can say voting closed.
And the voting has been closed.
And then you can go ahead and publish it, and you'll see it.
And then are you also going to say the results because the meeting's recorded?
Yes, you can say like motion approved
Yeah.
or whatever you usually
Just in
say.
general, motion
Yes.
approved. Okay.
Yeah, however you say it at
The number,
end.
give the number,
Right.
however you usually call it, just because it's not, we're not doing video, we're
Right.
only recording them.
And this one would be like 6-0 so-and-so absent, just
Right.
like you usually do.
Okay.
So if you want to try another one, maybe
Alrighty.
just do we can go through, like I said.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point, that because there's no video, someone listening to this won't know what the vote is
Right, yeah.
at all. So even to say the vote is 3-2, they won't know who voted which way.
Well, that's the same as it is now.
No, it's not. Excuse me.
Is-
Now
does
he
he
calls
s-
the name.
Oh,
and
well,
they
you can
say
do
how
that
they
too
vote.
then.
So he
You can
could-
call that, yeah.
Yeah.
The council, we just say like 5-0 or whatever
I think-
absent, but you can do that if you are, if
I
that's
think
what you're
what
wanting.
we can do in reference for you folks is, you know, the vote is, the motion is approved 5-2, commissioners A and B abstain, or nays.
Yeah, that's the regular way that all the other commissions do it and the council does it.
Okay. Does that work for you guys? So we won't say what everyone voted, we'll just say.
Then
what
for
the
you, you can
smaller
just,
vote.
does that make sense?
Yeah.
Call nay
Like,
voters.
yeah, and you just have to say like the abstain is, or the.
We're just discussing how to make sure the record is clear for who's calling the motion and that sort of thing. So I just want to make sure we have our conversation with the whole commission so everybody's aware of what we're talking about.
Like you usually call, like does the chair call the motion in second? Right? So then but you don't say like motion by so-and-so, like you don't repeat that.
You just call for a motion, or, you know, if someone calls a motion and then someone else second, do we put that, we log that into the
Yeah, he'll log it in
back end
here, but like
Here,
if you're
log it.
concerned that they didn't say the names, I'm just saying like, oh, that doesn't show up either, the motion.
So I think as a general rule, we might want to just all the commissioners probably just try to be a little more maybe aware of making a verbal record. It's not required. I mean, it's not going to be a problem if somebody looking at it doesn't know exactly who made the motion. But for clarity's sake, it would just, I think, nice if people could be conscious. So for example, if Commissioner Barbet wants to make a motion, Chair Paul, if you call on him and say, you know, I'm sorry, instead of, sorry, I'm getting my Barbet and my Barber
always
mixed
mix
up.
that
But, you know, just to actually, instead of, I know a lot of times we're here and we look at somebody and visually recognize them, but if we could just be conscious of speaking it as well and recognizing them by name for the record. If that works.
All right, so maybe let's do a quick exercise and we
Yeah, a
can
couple
pull one of
of them
them
run
up and you can ask for a motion and kind of run through it all.
Yeah, perfect.
Somebody make a mock motion.
So this is staff's first time doing this on our end as well. We've gone through a couple trainings, but our side is a little bit more complex, I think.
So, for the first item is call to order. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
That's motion by Barber. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second from Barbet. Can we call the vote, please?
The voting has been open. If you can refresh.
then just submit. There you go.
Is it being weird?
David's is not working. Wouldn't you know it?
There we go. Okay. It's okay. And so then you can.
So the voting has been closed, and the vote is 6-0 to approve the call to order, with one absent, Commissioner Spear.
Works for me.
Is everyone good? Everyone comfortable? Alex? Serena? Good? Do you want to recess for 15 minutes?
Okay, with the workshop completed, we'll recess until 7 o'clock. Thank you. As the time is now 7 o'clock, I'll call the meeting back to order. The next item on the agenda is approval of minutes for the August 8th, 2023 meeting. Do I have any questions from the commission or a motion?
Move approval of the minutes.
Moved by Barber. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Seconded by Barbet. Call for the vote.
Voting has been open. The vote is 6-0 to approve the minutes, with Commissioner Spear abstaining.
Okay. Next item is written communications and oral communications. Now's the time to address the council, the commission, on anything that's not on the agenda. Do you have any speaker slips or written communications?
None have been received at this time.
Okay. Next item is our public hearings. The first item, PL 23-0176, has been requested to be postponed until September 12th, 2023. Do we need a motion for that?
To be continued.
I don't believe we do. It's been continued as noted in the agenda, so it'll just be automatically heard on that date. No public notice is required to be posted or mailed again on that item.
Okay, thank you. And then the next item is PL 22-2021, and you have a change for that one as well?
Yeah, the applicant had reached out to us yesterday and had requested that the item be continued to a future meeting. The date on that is uncertain at this time, so new public notices will be sent out ahead of that meeting.
Okay, thank you. And that brings us to item number 4, PL 23-0270, extension of time for 661 Bear Valley Development Agreement. Do we have any disclosures by any of the commissioners? No, all right. Do we have a staff report? Okay, thank you.
All right. Good evening, Chair Paul, Vice Chair Barbet, and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Adam Feinstein. I'm the city planner here with the city of Escondido. The item before you tonight is a request for an extension of time related to a development agreement that was previously executed for a project. The proposed site, or the project site, I should say, is currently zoned PDR, so Planned Development Residential, and has a general plan designation of Estate 2. Here is a bit of a plotting plan for the project site. It's composed of 55 residential lots and several open space lots, and includes grading exemptions throughout in various locations for slopes that exceed height allowances, and it has a range of single and two-story product types. It should be noted that the project itself is not subject to consideration tonight. We are exclusively looking at an extension to the development agreement for the project. This information here is just being provided for context.
So back in August of 2018, so just over 5 years ago now, the City Council approved the rezone of the site, a master development plan, as well as a tentative subdivision map, grading exemption, a specific alignment plan for Bear Valley, and development agreement for the project. The approval also included certification of the EIR, and the master development plan there outlined the guidelines for the dwelling units that would eventually be plotted and built on the site. And then, if you'll remember back last year in October, you reviewed and approved the precise development plan for the project that laid out which which homes would go in which locations and treatment for landscaping, etc. So the current development agreement, it's set to expire in September, and it was valid for 5 years from the date of approval. That's a pretty standard and typical time frame or lifespan for a development agreement. At this point, they're requesting an additional 2 years in order to give themselves time to finalize all of their post-entitlement permits, get their final map recorded, and pull grading, building, etc., and get all that done. So public improvements and public benefits that were derived out of the development agreement include the design and construction of a stretch of Bear Valley Parkway, $215,000 as security for construction of certain offsite improvements, design and construction of a stretch of northbound Bear Valley Parkway, and then reimbursement for other offsite improvements. So the request now for the development agreement amendment is required to come before Planning Commission as an advisory body to City Council. The zoning code requires amendments to development agreements to go through the same process that the original development agreement did, which was the recommendation by Planning Commission to the City Council, who had the ultimate decision-making authority. And as I mentioned, the request is to add 2 years to the length of the entitlement, or to the length of the DA. And no other changes are being proposed or made at this point. It's simply to extend the shelf life of the DA for 2 more years. Back in 2018, as part of the project, the council did certify a final environmental impact report, and because of that, there's no changes being made here, so the current proposal is within the scope of that certified EIR, and no further environmental analysis is required at this time. With that, staff would recommend that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2023-14, recommending approval of the project to the City Council. That concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available for any questions that the Commission may have.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. If there's anyone who'd like to address the Commission. Seeing none, do you have any speaker slips?
At this time.
No? Okay. Do the Commission have any questions for staff?
I actually do. I'm just curious, Adam, is this a common thing to ask for an increase? I'm just curious as to why it says they need to pull permits, et cetera. I recognize that, but.
Yeah, it depends on the scope of the project. There's been, I think, 2 projects in the time I've been working here that have requested an extension to the development agreement. In this instance, I think it's just the size and scale of the project and some of the improvements that they were needing to deal with that really took a little bit of extra time, coupled with the thing we had called COVID in the middle of this also. But they are definitely moving towards their permitting and getting things going there. I think, as you remember, you saw the precise development plan last year, so they are making progress.
You're good. So I did see in here a timeline, and it showed some things going back and forth with the city a few times. Is that typical too? I mean, some of them are like 3 and 4 times being submitted.
So you're talking about the the entitlements or the review of the projects or the plans. Yeah, depending on the scope of the project, it can happen. Usually we assume for engineering, civil engineering plans, usually 3 review cycles, sometimes a 4th. It depends. I mean, a lot of these projects are really detailed grading issues, and when you move one thing over here, it changes 4 things over there, and then having to chase that and make sure. And Owen and his team over in our engineering division, they're on top of this and really work with the applicants to make sure that they get everything right, and that the drainage works, that the grading works, and all that.
Okay, thank you. So do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Spear. Do I have a second?
Sure, I'll second.
Second by Weiler. Call for the vote.
Voting has been open. The voting is 7-0 to approve the recommendation.
Thank you very much. Next item is current business. PL 23-0061, comprehensive sign ordinance update.
So excuse me, Ivan Flores, our associate planner, was the planner leading this effort. He's unfortunately out ill today. There's not an urgent time frame to get this discussion back to the commission here, so I'm going to defer and wait until the next meeting so he can have that conversation with you folks. He was intending to basically provide a recap of the work that the planning commission subcommittee did, as well as report out on a meeting that we that he presented to the City Council's Economic Development Subcommittee. But that'll be happening on the September 12th meeting.
Okay, thank you. And then the next item is 6, comprehensive economic development strategy.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jennifer Shenik. I am the Deputy Director of Economic Development for the City of Escondido. And my role with the city is to monitor our economy and understand where we've been as a city and where we're going. So this evening, I'll be reviewing our comprehensive economic development strategy that was adopted by City Council on June 7th of this year. In this presentation, I'll review what is the CEDS, our process that we use to create this document, including community input, our key data findings, the action plan that we developed from those key findings, and then I'll talk a little bit about how we're implementing the CEDS and what the reporting requirements are. And the information about this document can be found at escondido.org/CEDS, CEDS. So what is the CEDS? This is a document that's updated every 5 years by the City of Escondido Economic Development Team. And the CEDS is a document that uses data and community feedback to create policy and activity priorities for a 5-year timeframe. The document must be adopted by City Council and then filed with a federal government agency, the Economic Development Administration. And again, there's the URL to learn more information. So I think it's important to talk about what is the CEDS and what it is not. So the CEDS is a tool to understand the city's current economic conditions. It's a focused strategy on what can move the city's economy in a direction to improve quality of life. It's a framework to engage the community. It is a mechanism to help secure federal and state funds for our community. It is also an interdepartmental strategy for city staff so we can collaborate on big ideas. It's aligned with the city's general plan and specific plans that have been adopted. And it's a community document that requires collaboration with nonprofits and business organizations for successful implementation. So what is this document not? It's not a list of everything that our economic development department does. And it is not just a plan for city staff to implement in a silo without community input. This is really something to serve our entire community with our entire community. So this was a year process of first going to RFP, selecting a consultant to work with us. We worked with Beacon Economics. And then we went through a comprehensive literature review to understand the plans we already have in place. And then we had community meetings to get more quantitative feedback to provide insight on the quantitative data that we were seeing. So through 7 community meetings, 105 meeting participants attended. We also received 128 online survey responses. And these are some of the organizations that were represented at our community meetings. So what did we find when we were looking at the data and talking to our community? These are some key findings from that data analysis. First, it was very clear that people loved and were attracted to the natural beauty of Escondido. That was listed as a top reason why Escondido is thriving and why people move here. We also have a resilient workforce. When there is unemployment, our employment levels come back. Our region is also relatively affordable from a housing perspective compared to neighboring cities. And we're centrally located in San Diego, and also from our location on the 15, it's also very accessible to areas north of San Diego County. But we also found some concerning signs when we analyze the data, and it's important to recognize what our weaknesses are so that we can work on them as a community. First, we have a declining population, while other cities around us are increasing in population. That is a red flag for economic development because we really want to ask the question, why? Why are people not choosing to locate to Escondido, or why are they leaving? 2, low educational attainment. When it comes to adults 25 and older in our city, 1 out of every 5 of them does not have a high school education or equivalent. That means that our workforce is not competitive compared to other communities. That is a risk to our ability to attract businesses that are looking for talent. And also we have a net jobs deficit. There are a lot of people who work in our community in industries that don't have jobs inside of Escondido, so they have to commute out of our city to go to work. Also, we have an outdated general plan, and we find that sometimes stymies the development process because the rules are unclear as to what can happen in certain areas. And also, compared to other jurisdictions, we have a slow housing permitting process. So let's dig into some of these key data points. So this is a graph that's available in the SEDS, so you can see it more clearly. And the basic message here is growth was too hot before 1990, and it's been too slow since. We did include a line denoting when Proposition S was implemented in case people were curious. This was a question we got a lot from the community. And we saw that our population growth started to decline before then and then continued to kind of stabilize and decline after that. And then the city depends too much on one-time transfers and not enough on natural growth and development. This is a sign that we need to focus on economic development to bring in the economic drivers and activities to sustain our city's budget. Because we are funded heavily on sales tax, we receive money from property tax, we need those economic drivers functioning well in our city. We have a high dependency on other labor markets. So this is what I mentioned before about industries. So we export more commuters than we import for most industries. So you can see on this graph for construction, retail, and healthcare, we receive people to do those jobs. Every other industry, our residents have to go somewhere else. So this shows us there's a market opportunity to attract these businesses because their workers are here. I mentioned we have a declining population, and an important item to note in that, with that data point is that we have a declining young population. So the age cohorts that are experiencing the greatest negative change are 25 to 29-year-olds, those under 5, and 20 to 24-year-olds. So this could be for a variety of factors, but mostly could be brain drain, so people who receive an education here move outside of the city, or people who move into our city. It's not desirable to come into our city if you're in these age groups. So this is something that we just have to ask ourselves why. Why are we not as attractive to these age groups? And then our fastest growing populations are 70 plus. And then our socioeconomic status compared to other cities is lower. So we tend to have lower levels of income, wages, human capital, and higher levels of poverty in our city. There was a county poverty report that came out in January that showed that Escondido has an area of persistent poverty, which is something for us to pay attention to. So our full-time median earnings are lower than other cities. And this is another graph that shows some of the data related to other cities. So Escondido scores low on the median earnings, and we score high on poverty by city. And then we do have lower housing prices, but slower permitting. So it may be difficult for us to maintain our relative housing affordability for the long term if we don't come up with a strategy to continue to develop housing. So what does all this data mean? We know we have some really, really great strengths as a city, and we know we have some concerning signs. So what we have in the report, starting on page 56, is the action plan. And the action plan consists of 4 fundamentals and then 3 thematic areas. So I'll go through those, and I'll be reading a little bit from the report so you can hear what these fundamentals how these fundamentals are described. So fundamental 1 is balance our population growth rates. So our plateauing population is troubling. It signals there's not enough economic opportunity to attract new residents and or that housing market cannot absorb new residents. The fiscal consequences of this growth are also cause for concern. So that we can become financially solvent, we need to grow our sales and property tax revenue, and the easiest path to increasing that is our local resident base. We should also not just allow growth on any terms, right? Some cities do choose that strategy where it's like, everybody come, build whatever you want. So the recommendation from our consultant that City Council adopted is that we look for a growth rate that's between that slower rate that we've seen, which is 0.39% since 2010, but not as fast as that 7.1% that we saw. And so the recommendation is a 3 to 4% growth rate, which is kind of a healthy middle ground there, which allows us some growth, but it allows us to be strategic in what that growth looks like. It's not just growth for growth's sake. 2, more economic opportunities. Our economy will work best when it can create economic opportunities for our residents. This means ensuring that everyone who wants a job can get one and in their field. The need for economic opportunities is most acute for those in poverty or lacking stable housing. Also, there should not be excessive commuting and activity that takes a toll on the environment, quality of life, and productivity, unless you're really into podcasts or some good songs. So more education and workforce training programs that align with industry needs can attract firms in key industries. Fundamental 3 is actively maximizing the value of land. So our land values are some of the highest in the country, which means it's more expensive to find a home, start a business, have fun. In this environment, it's crucial that land is put to its best use. Escondido, we are an older city, established in 1888, and even though we are a large city, most of our land has been developed. And so with our zoning that we have to be really mindful of how we're using our land for housing and jobs. Because if we can't attract those businesses and have the jobs, then we'll continue to see that net export of talent. And lastly, Fundamental 4 really came out of our conversations with the community, where a lot of people said, Escondido is really excellent and we need to tell our story better. And this is intentional placemaking and marketing, so that as a community, we can really start to think about how can we get the word out about our community, how can we celebrate it internally with our residents who are here. Next are our 3 thematic areas. This is really where we create specific plans to help address some of these issues and meet our fundamental goals. So thematic area 1 is streamlined industry targeting. In economic development, it used to be that if you could just attract a big box retailer to generate a lot of sales tax revenue or a big company with a lot of jobs, that's all you needed to make your community thrive. And while those are still important pieces of economic development strategy, there's really been a shift toward industry cluster targeting. Because when you develop a strong industry cluster, it attracts more businesses of the same kind to move there because they know that they can either find the workers they need or attract the customers that they want. We see this, for example, on the Torrey Pines Mesa, where all the biotech companies are located. They all want to be close to each other to share resources and talent. So the first industry cluster that we're looking at and focusing on is agriculture and ag tech. We have a strong history in agriculture here in the city, and we're seeing growth in our professional and scientific service companies, our tech companies. So by marrying these two areas, we're looking to attract more of these high-wage companies to Escondido and celebrate our agricultural heritage. Our second focus industry cluster is clean tech, which is a big umbrella that includes things like electric vehicles, solar, wastewater, water, software. And we already see these companies being successful in Escondido. We have Baker Electric, Baker Solar, one of the region's primary companies for this industry. We also have the SDG&E Palomar Power Center, which we here in Escondido, with that center, we are powering hundreds of thousands of homes in North County. It's quite amazing. And they'll be starting a hydrogen energy experiment there at that SDG&E facility. So we already have companies doing cutting edge technology things here. And our third industry cluster includes tourism. So this is an umbrella for our arts and culture, our food and beverage companies, and sports tourism. We're lucky to have Stone here. They're receiving extra investment from Sapporo and will continue to grow here and add more jobs. That is very good for us, and they would fall under this tourism category. We have the Center for the Arts, and also sports tourism is very popular here, where we see people traveling to Escondido to spend their time and money here. Our second thematic area is related to promoting technology entrepreneurship and early stage fabrication companies. So right now with economic development, I mentioned it used to be the case you want to attract the big box store or the company with a lot of jobs. We do industry clustering, and then also there are a lot of people that don't need to be located at a physical office anymore. So we can attract the people regardless of where they're working. And so this area is related to making sure that we're an attractive place to these tech entrepreneurs. We will have Apple moving right down the street. A lot of those individuals will mostly work from home. They should choose Escondido because on their lunch break, they'll be able to go to Kit Carson Park or hike Daly Ranch and be involved in our beautiful community. And also we want to retain and attract light industrial companies. So right now in the commercial real estate market, industrial, especially light industrial, is in high demand. Our vacancy rates for our industrial properties is always historically very low compared to other cities, meaning there's more demand for that. If we can get those companies in here at an early stage, they're likely to stay here. I've already heard many stories where a company has been kind of pushed out of Sereno Valley or Mira Mesa or Rancho Bernardo, and they find themselves moving to Escondido because the rents are more reasonable or they already live in the area. We want to hold on to those companies. And then the third thematic area is really related to a place. So create a downtown destination district. We know that our downtown is struggling with vacancy rates. We have about an 8% retail vacancy rate right now. That's not as high as the peak of vacancy rates downtown, which at one point reached 16%. But we're looking at new ways to really retain, attract, and grow businesses. One way to do this, for example, is helping streamline business license permitting for businesses downtown. We did that as an experiment with a couple new businesses that came in. They got their permits right away, and the first time I met the business owner, they said, "Are you the reason why I got my permits so quickly? It allowed me to open earlier and start making money." And so we can do tactics like that in different areas, especially downtown, to incentivize businesses to be downtown. And then the other area around the revitalization of downtown is encouraging more housing opportunities. We're already seeing the positive effects of Palomar Heights in that development because that will bring over 500 market rate units. And from a data perspective, if a company is looking to move into an area, they want to know there's a household median income that can support whatever they are selling. They want to know their customers are there. And those rates of that market rate housing will help positively impact how the data looks for a company. So then how are we implementing and reporting? So you'll notice after each thematic area, there are some programmatic elements we want to implement, and each of them has a general timeline. So we are starting quarterly community meetings with a lot of individuals who were a part of the initial process, and more individuals are invited to those. We're finalizing the date for our first one. We're looking at early October, and when we have that date, we'll put it on the SEDS website, and anyone's welcome to attend and say how they can be a part of helping achieve this vision. We also give quarterly updates to our City Council Economic Development Subcommittee, which consists of the mayor and the deputy mayor. We will be doing an annual presentation to City Council on the progress of some of these big goals. And also we are required by the EDA to submit an annual report to them. That concludes my presentation of the SEDS, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for staff? Do we have any public speakers? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, could you clarify for me more precisely defining the thematic areas, not what you list in each one, but one is area 1, one is area 2, one is area 3. Are you saying those are the priorities that you're targeting?
The thematic areas? Yes, that's a great question. So these thematic areas are how we are going to structure our some key elements of our work plan to try and achieve our big goals, our big fundamental goals.
For example, when I look at them listed in area 1, area 2, area 3, so we're concentrating on area 1 as a higher priority than what you have listed in area 2?
Great question. I hear what you're saying. So these are not ordered in terms of priorities. They're just numerated.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you. Oh, by the way, who conducted the report that evaluated our poverty level in Escondido?
Yes. So the consulting group we worked with is Beacon Economics, and we pulled publicly available data that's used at the state and the federal level.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you on the downtown destination.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned specifically the strategy to expedite permitting. I was curious. I know we have the dilemma of private ownership of the area. Are there other pushes other than expediting permitting for those folks that we're trying to encourage with on that front?
Great question. So the issue is a real one for us. So we do have many properties downtown that are owned in trusts, and we have some absentee property owners. Not every property owner, but we do have some that are not engaged in leasing their properties. And we also have some property owners that are choosing not to lease their properties because of the investment that's required to get the buildings up to code. And so there are a lot of construction barriers, financial barriers to revitalizing some of these projects or some of these properties. They often require seismic analysis and seismic retrofitting, utility upgrades. And so one item that we are considering and that we've brought to the Economic Development Subcommittee for consideration is a vacancy registry ordinance where commercial property owners would be required to register their building so that we can help them create a plan to fill vacancies. Because right now, when there is a vacant building, it does cost the city time to investigate the building and sometimes help remedy some negative effects of vacancy. So that's under consideration as to whether or not that will go to City Council.
Thank you.
Of course. And one additional item I will mention, economic development is a section of government that likes to use more carrots than sticks. And in the state of California, we only have so many carrots to give. We do have a facade improvement grant program that offers a matching grant for businesses interested in improving the front of their buildings. So that is a program that many businesses have chosen to engage with us on to help improve their buildings.
Thank you so much for your report. It's so fascinating, and I'm so excited to see the thematic areas because they resonate with what I see happening in other cities that are really successful and, you know, that are thriving today. So on the downtown destination district, I have a little store in Daydream. I'm the plant vendor in there. So I just want to share how important it is to everyone who works on Grand Avenue to do something about those vacancies, whether it be a vacancy tax or whatnot. And I also live in Old Escondido. So again, that historic downtown, you know, next to our historic neighborhood is also really such a passion for almost every neighbor that I know. So I would really like to see, number one, our Historic Preservation Committee being involved when people do their property improvements on Grand. And then I also had a question for you too. I know that we had a COVID grant. So if you were in business before 2019, I believe, there were facade improvement funds. That was all that I knew was available. So are there more funds that aren't COVID related for new businesses especially?
Yes. Thank you for your feedback about involving the Historic Society and making sure we cast a wide net for people to be involved. We'll make sure to reach out to them. And for the grant funding, yes, there was ARPA funds available for facade improvement grant, but there is also a CIP project code with funds in it that we are utilizing for facade improvement grants for individuals who maybe were not in business prior to COVID, because we have had a lot of businesses reach out that have opened that were not eligible for that original pot of funding because of the requirements. So now we're able to utilize these funds to help additional businesses.
Great, thank you so much.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right, back on the agenda. Future agenda items, opportunity for anyone on the commission who wants to suggest something for a future agenda. No? Okay. Oral communications? Seeing none. Planning commissioners' reports? All right, we're getting out of here early. City planners' report.
Thank you, Chair Paul. So a few things just to note that we do have, we'll have at least 2 items that have been continued from this meeting to the future meeting on September 12th. So we will be holding a meeting then. However, I will not be there. This is going to be my last meeting with you folks. I've taken a position. I'm going to be moving on up to City of Manhattan Beach where I grew up. So it'll be change for me, and I'm going to miss working with this group and the commissions that I've worked with over the course of the past 7 years. But you know, you guys are amazing. I think I said this, that this commission is the most engaged I've ever worked with, and it's been an honor for me to be able to serve you. So thank you guys, and you know, you've definitely changed the way I work as a planner. Thank you. So
Wow, so you just kind of shocked me. I mean, it's been great working with you, too.
thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to say, Mr. Feinstein, and many of you probably don't know, but we worked together back in 2001, and I've watched his career grow since he was an assistant planner all the way up now to city planner. So it's been a pleasure working with you, Adam, all of these years, and especially because I've watched it all locally, going from the different cities and how you've progressed. I think you'll do very well up there in the city of Manhattan Beach. So best of luck to you.
Thank you.
I might as well just say, Adam, I've been very pleased and by the opportunity I've had to learn from you and watch your professionalism and your wisdom, and you will be missed greatly.
Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to just second all of those, but really, Adam, it's been a pleasure working with you, and really best of luck in your new endeavor. Manhattan Beach is lucky.
Thank you all. It means a lot to hear this from a commission that I really respect and have enjoyed working with, so appreciate it. And I'm going to miss you. We're figuring that out. I don't have an answer for you just yet. So, at this point, our deputy city manager is going to be getting more involved in the development services department. Our director, Andy Firestein, is also going to be actually leaving, so he's going back to the Palm Desert area where he's from, or where he spent the last number of years. So he's going to be leaving as well. It's going to be a big gap to fill, but our deputy city manager is going to come and sit in that seat down in Andy's office, and he's going to make everything work. So for those of you who don't know him, Chris McKinney, I just put him on the spot there, so.
Okay, meeting adjourned.